what I am, how little I know, and how rude my life has been, I altogether distrust my claim, even to think a moment of one so tutored and gay, and light of heart, and delicate." "You forget handsome," coarsely interrupted Muir. "And handsome too, I fear," returned the meek and self abased guide. "I might have said handsome at once, among her other qualities; for the young fawn, just as it learns to bound, is not more pleasant to the eye of the hunter than Mabel is lovely in mine. I do indeed fear that all the thoughts I have harbored about her are vain and presumptuous." "If you think this, my friend, of your own accord and natural modesty, as it might be, my duty to you as an old fellow campaigner compels me to say—" "Quartermaster," interrupted the other, regarding his companion keenly, "you and I have lived together much behind the ramparts of forts, but very little in the open woods, or in front of the enemy." "Garrison or tent, it all passes for part of the same campaign, you know, Pathfinder; and then my duty keeps me much within sight of the storehouses, greatly contrary to my inclinations, as you may well suppose, having yourself the ardor of battle in your temperament. But had you heard what Mabel had just been saying of you, you'd no think another minute of making yourself agreeable to the saucy and uncompromising hussy." Pathfinder looked earnestly at the lieutenant, for it was impossible he should not feel an interest in what might be Mabel's opinion; but he had too much of the innate and true feeling of a gentleman to ask to hear what another had said of him. Muir, however, was not to be foiled by his self denial and self respect, for, believing he had a man of great truth and simplicity to deal with, he determined to practise on his credulity, as one means of getting rid of his rivalry. He therefore pursued the subject, as soon as he perceived that his companion's self denial was stronger than his curiosity. "You ought to know her opinion, Pathfinder," he continued, "and I think every man ought to hear what his friends and acquaintances say of him; and so, by way of proving my own regard for your character and feelings, I'll just tell you in as few words as possible. You know that Mabel has a wicked, malicious way with them eyes of her own, when she has a mind to be hard upon one's feelings." "To me her eyes, Lieutenant Muir, have always seemed winning and soft, though I will acknowledge that they sometimes laugh. Yes, I have known them to laugh, and that right heartily, and with downright good will." "Well, it was just that, then. Her eyes were laughing with all their might, as it were, and in the midst of all her fun, she broke out with an exclamation to this effect: 'I hope 'twill not hurt your sensibility, Pathfinder.'" "I will not say, Quartermaster, I will not say. Mabel's opinion of me is of no more account than that of most others." "Then I'll not tell you, but just keep discretion on the subject. And why should a man be telling another what his friends say of him, especially when they happen to say that which may not be pleasant to hear? I'll not add another word to this present communication." "I cannot make you speak, Quartermaster, if you are not so minded, and perhaps it is better for me not to know Mabel's opinion, as you seem to think it is not in my favor. Ah's me! If we could be what we wish to be, instead of being only what we are, there would be a great difference in our characters and knowledge and appearance. One may be rude and coarse and ignorant, and yet happy, if he does not know it; but it is hard to see our own failings in the strongest light, just as we wish to hear the least about them." "That's just the rationale, as the French say, of the matter; and so I was telling Mabel, when she ran away and left me. You noticed the manner in which she skipped off as you approached?" "It was very observable," answered Pathfinder, drawing a long breath and clenching the barrel of his rifle, as if the fingers would bury themselves in the iron. "It was more than observable, it was flagrant, that's just the word, and the dictionary wouldn't supply a better, after an hour's search. Well, you must know, Pathfinder, for I cannot reasonably deny you the gratification of hearing this, so you must know, the minx bounded off in that manner in preference to hearing what I had to say in your justification." "And what could you find to say in my behalf, Quartermaster?" "Why, do you understand, my friend, I was ruled by circumstances, and nor ventured indiscreetly into generalities, but was preparing to meet particulars, as it might be, with particulars. If you were thought wild, half savage, or of a frontier formation, I could tell her, that it came of the frontier, wild and half savage life you led, and all her objections must cease at once, or there would be a sort of misunderstanding with Providence." "And did you tell her this, Quartermaster?" "I'll no swear to the exact words, but the idea was prevalent in my mind, you'll understand. The girl was impatient, and would not hear the half I had to say, but away she skipped, as you saw with your own eyes, Pathfinder, as if her opinion were fully made up, and she cared to listen no longer. I fear her mind may be said to have come to its conclusion?" "I fear it has indeed, Quartermaster, and her father, after all, is mistaken. Yes, the Sergeant has fallen into a grievous error." "Well, man, why need ye lament, and undo all the grand reputation you've been so many weary years making? Shoulder the rifle that you use so well, and off into the woods with you, for there's not the female breathing that is worth a heavy heart for a minute, as I know from experience. Take the word of one who knows the sex, and has had 2 wives, that women, after all, are very much the sort of creatures we do not imagine them to be. Now, if you would really mortify Mabel, here is as glorious an occasion as any rejected lover could desire." "The last wish I have, Lieutenant, would be to mortify Mabel." "Well, you come to that in the end, notwithstanding, for it's human nature to desire to give unpleasant feelings to them that give unpleasant feelings to us. But a better occasion never offered to make your friends love you, than to be had at this very moment, and that is the certain means of causing one's enemies to envy us." "Quartermaster, Mabel is not my enemy, and if she was, the last thing I could desire would be to give her an uneasy moment." "You say so, Pathfinder, you say so, and I dare say you think so; but reason and nature are both against you, as you'll find in the end. You've heard the saying, 'Love me, love my dog'? Well, now that means, read backwards, 'Don't love me, don't love my dog.' Now, listen to what is in your power to do. You know we occupy an exceedingly precarious and uncertain position here, almost in the jaws of the lion, as it were." "Do you mean the Frenchers by the lion, and this island as his jaws, Lieutenant?" "Metaphorically only, my friend, for the French are no lions. This island is not a jaw, unless, indeed, it may prove to be, what I greatly fear may come true, the jawbone of an ass." Here the Quartermaster indulged in a sneering laugh, that proclaimed anything but respect and admiration for his friend Lundie's sagacity in selecting that particular spot for his operations. "The post is as well chosen as any I ever put foot in," said Pathfinder, looking around him as one surveys a picture. "I'll not deny it. Lundie is a great soldier, in a small way, and his father was a great laird, with the same qualification. I was born on the estate, and have followed the Major so long that I've got to reverence all he says and does. That's just my weakness, you'll know, Pathfinder. Well, this post may be the post of an ass, or of a Solomon, as men fancy, but it's most critically placed, as is apparent by all Lundie's precautions and injunctions. There are savages out scouting through these Thousand Islands, and over the forest, searching for this very spot, as is known to Lundie himself, on certain information, and the greatest service you can render the 55th is to discover their trails and lead them off on a false scent. Unhappily, Sergeant Dunham has taken up the notion that the danger is to be apprehended from upstream, because Frontenac lies above us, whereas all experience tells us that Indians come on the side which is most contrary to reason, and consequently are to be expected from below. Take your canoe, therefore, and go downstream among the islands, that we may have notice if any danger approaches from that quarter." "The Big Sarpent is on the lookout in that quarter, and as he knows the station well, no doubt he will give us timely notice, should any wish to circumvent us in that direction." "He is but an Indian, after all, Pathfinder, and this is an affair that calls for the knowledge of a white man. Lundie will be eternally grateful to the man who shall help this little enterprise to come off.